This is Raman from tradingwithvenus.com. Today I wanted to share with you a few trades that set up beautifully today around pivot points. So the first one that we'll take a look at is Euro US dollar. So here we have, this is our daily pivot, the green line that you see. We saw a rejection of this 1189 level, 1200 level, just prior to the 1200 level. And then we saw a price pushing up into the pivot. And at one point we thought the pivot was going to hold and we would see a trade to the upside. However, quickly price rejected here. We saw a nice engulfing candle, nice rejection pattern here. And this was a trade that we took in the trade room this morning. On the pullback, we entered a short trade here. On this candle when the candle looked green on the way when it was pulling back. So we entered a short trade here. And as you can see, we had a nice drop in the market. And once the price came down into that 20 level, it started rejecting there. And this was a good place to exit once you have 1, 2, 3 rejections in the bottom. Nice place to exit the trade. So this was a nice, decent trade, about 50 pips or so from the entry here. It's about 42 pips all the way to the bottom was 50 pips, but got about 40 pips or so out of the trade. And then there's also this pound trade that I wanted to share with you. This was off of R1. So it was a nice 4,500 level. We saw a rejection there. And then if you look at this pattern here, so we have railroad reversal on R1. And then also we see another push to the upside, but nice engulfing candle to the downside. So it's a nice 4,500 level, which is a nice level, good solid level, the zero level. And we saw a rejection on the R1. So this will, on the pullback here, this would be a really good entry, taking it all the way to the downside. As we can see, the trade moved fair bit. We have about over 200 pips here in the trade. So this would have been a good entry. This was not an entry that we took because I was not at my trading station at the time. Another good entry here in pound was right off of the pivot here as well. So this is a daily pivot. So we saw price finally move through this level, through the pivot, went back and tested it here, and then had a nice engulfing candle to the downside. So here again, as the price pulled back here, this is another good entry to get short on this trade. And as we can see, the price went all the way to S1, S2, and finally, once the price starts going sideways here, once we see pullback, railroad reversal here, this is time to get out. So again, this was an incredible trade, over 200 pips in this single trade here. There was another Aussie trade that set up actually that was really nice as well. So here again, we see an entry off of R1 here. If you take a look at this level, it is the 80 level. So 71.80, we saw a rejection off of that level, and then second rejection off of that level, and a close inside the R1. So the level itself, the rejection pattern on the level, we have double top, and then we also have a close within R1 below R1. So this would, it was a slight pullback here. So on the pullback, this is a nice entry to the downside. And then that was one entry option that you had. This, of course, I was not trading at this time. There's another option here off of the pivot. So once the price cut gets into the pivot, the close below the pivot, we had very bearish candle. There was nice momentum trade to the downside. We saw price coming down, closed below the pivot here, and this would have been a good entry for the short. So this was a nice trade. Again, we got about 40 pips or so in the trade here. Overall, this was about 60 pips, 50 pips in the trade. But from the top here, this would have been a nice 80 pip trade. Either way, whether you're able to catch this entry if you're trading early in the morning, or like myself, if you're trading the New York session, you have a couple of options to get into these trades. And as you can see, once we see rejection in the bottom, it's time to get out because most likely the market will move sideways from there. So those are 3 different trade ideas. The first one, we have euro off of close below the pivot, a daily pivot, and we take a short there. And then another one was pound. Pound was a beautiful trade today. So first entry would have been off of a rejection of R1, a short entry there, and then rejection of pivot, a short entry there as well. Nice long trade there. Sorry, trade to the short side, but a nice good trade there. And then we have, this is again rejection off of the R1 here. This is Aussie US dollar, and a couple of different entry options here. One was right off of the rejection of R1, another one rejection of pivot point here, close below the pivot point. So those were three nice trades that set up based on the pivot point entries. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at raman@tradingwithvenus.com. Until next time, have a great trading day.